Okay, 12:03. I think we're going to get going. Should we move to the next slide? All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Ken Rother. I'm the director of eLab. For those of you from eLab, you know what it is. For those who don't, that's the on-campus credit-bearing student accelerator program for students who are looking to launch businesses as they sort of finish their Cornell career. It's open to everyone from undergrads through to PhD candidates. I also teach entrepreneurship in the business school to MBAs and undergrads, and a national ICOR instructor, and just heavily involved in commercialization activities in general. Before I introduce our two guests and Beth, who's going to be running the program, I just want to talk a little bit about the motivation for putting on this webinar. So this webinar was Beth's idea, and she'll talk a little bit about it. But one of the things we've seen is teams struggle to record accurately and in a useful fashion the information that they collect during the customer discovery process. And a lot of valuable data kind of disappears accidentally. Valuable during the customer discovery process, and then valuable post-customer discovery when you're looking to launch a business and you've made all of these incredibly valuable connections. So it's never too early to start building up that list of names and email addresses and keeping people informed, whether they're a potential customer, a potential investor, a domain expert. So we're excited to look at putting some tools in place, helping teams put some tools in place to help them both during the customer discovery process, but general customer relationship management beyond that, so that they can take all those great relationships that they've created during customer discovery and continue to use them on an ongoing basis when they're going out to market. So that's the motivation. Thank you for coming. I'm going to quickly ask first David Peterson from Airtable to introduce himself.
Yeah, hey everybody. My name's David. I lead partnerships over here at Airtable, and just some quick background. So what partnerships means, that's, we work with our consultant network, we work with our developer partners, but we also work with startups. So since I joined Airtable 3.5 years ago, I've been leading our Airtable for Startups program, work with accelerators and VCs around the world to evangelize Airtable for startups. So I have lots of ideas for how startups use Airtable in tons of different ways. But some quick background: before Airtable, I worked in seed stage venture. Before that, I was an entrepreneur myself, started a company which was almost entirely built on top of Airtable for the first 6 months. So deeply passionate about both startups and how startups can use no-code tools like us. So really excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, David. And the other Ken, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Thanks, Ken. My name is Ken Smith. I'm part of the higher education team here at Salesforce.org. Salesforce.org is a group within Salesforce.com. We work exclusively with our nonprofit and higher education clients around North America. So as an account executive with .org, I get the opportunity to work with colleges, and Cornell being one of them. So I spent a lot of time working with folks at Cornell University and other places to help see how the technology from Salesforce can help the university get better relationships with its constituents, students, and community. And also, I've been doing this for about 2 years with Salesforce. Was a little bit more in higher ed before that, and prior to that, I've been using Salesforce about around 15 or so years. Always in this kind of front end of the funnel place where we're trying to help really identify and work with new potential clients and customers. So that's where I'm going to focus here today. Thanks.
Great. And I'm part of an organization called CREA, the Center for Regional Economic Advancement, that sort of is an umbrella that runs a lot of programs around Ithaca and on campus. And we are both Airtable and Salesforce users, paying customers, I'll have you know. Beth, would you like to introduce yourself? And then I'll just want to say a couple more things before we get going.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Beth Sia. I am the instructor for the UNY node of NSF iCorps. Some of you in the audience might have been participants in my class that I taught for iCorps hosted by Cornell Tech. And I'm the organizer of this workshop. The impetus for organizing a series like this is so that our Cornell entrepreneurship community can have the best in class startup software tools to launch and scale and further build your startup. And so it is absolutely my honor to have both David and Ken here with us today. So
Thank you.
back to
Beth.
you, Ken. Yeah.
All right, and I hope you want to jump ahead. So we put on a lot of programs through various constituencies here at CREA. This one sponsored by eLab, others sponsored by other groups. So we have a couple coming up that I think are interesting. So what venture capitalists look for in a startup. I think that's going to be run by Big Red Ventures, and they're going to be talking to Eric Young, who is a VC. He's a Cornellian. He's been in the VC industry for a long time, and he basically started Canaan Venture Partners, a top tier firm. So you want to look for that. Then we have a part of the group. One of the groups that we help put their program together is Black Entrepreneurs in Training. And we have a webinar coming up about some of the unique challenges of to be honest, of being an entrepreneur, a Black entrepreneur, and what some of the challenges have been, and what we're trying to do to address those things. And then this program is sponsored by eLab. So early in December, all of the eLab teams will be putting on pitches, early stage pitches, as part of an event. So you'll get to see where are they in their progress of developing their idea. We're partnering with Cornell Entrepreneurship Network, and that's going to be a huge event. And you'll get to see the 21 eLab teams and what stage they're in. So those are some things coming up. You should absolutely join. If you aren't already, go to Entrepreneurship at Cornell, Google Entrepreneurship at Cornell, go to their website, sign up for the listserv newsletter, and you'll see all of these things coming down the pipe. All right, so let's get going with the meat of the program. So Beth, I'm going to hand over to you, and let's get going.
Oh, great. Okay. So the first person who's going to do the presentation today is David from Airtable.
All right, let's dig in. Let me start sharing my screen. I know we don't have a lot of time for each of these two, so I want to be mindful. All right, so what I want to do here, everybody, is spend the first 2 minutes talking about what Airtable is, and then the rest of the time building stuff in Airtable together. So spend most of the time just having some fun in the product. But so a quick background on Airtable, if you haven't used it or heard of it before. So Airtable, it looks like a spreadsheet. It has the familiarity of it. You can just start typing and write in it directly. You can add columns, add rows as easily as if you were using a spreadsheet, but it's actually a database. And what that means is that you can build systems that start to look and feel and act like software. Which is pretty amazing. But you can build them as simply as if you were kind of putting together, a spreadsheet that you're likely quite familiar with. And you can do lots of different things, right? Today we're going to be talking about customer discovery, but there's a ton of different use cases for startups in particular. And I would just recommend going to airtable.com/templates or going to our universe. These are the universe is user-generated, community published workflows that people built. Just scroll through and you'll see how many different types of people build with Airtable. But today we're going to be focusing on customer discovery in particular. And so I want to get started playing around with that. So we actually have I'll say we're going to pretend. So let's all imagine we're entrepreneurs together. We're going to pretend we're working on a new technology that enables remote continuous monitoring of a person's retina. So we're in the customer discovery phase. That means we're doing, a bunch of interviews to try to identify our beachhead market. And so we want to build a system to manage that whole process, right? So we want to manage, all of our customers. We want to manage the outreach. We want to pull out insights, keep it all organized, and start to add in some automation into the system too, so it starts kind of doing our work for us. So we've actually already created like a fully baked template of this, for you all in Airtable. You're going to be able to evolve that to meet your needs kind of in any way. But to start, I wanted to build it out together. just so you can kind of see how easy it is to start building and evolving things. And then we'll spend the last 5 minutes or so looking at the fully baked template. And we can kind of ask some questions and look at, a more complex workflow. What are some of the things that you could achieve? Okay, so let's start building this together. So we're going to dive in here. So this is what Airtable looks like. As you can see, it kind of looks like a spreadsheet, right? You have some rows, and it's easy to type in, hi, right? Easy to type in, just like a spreadsheet. But let's think about, before we start, typing in, let's think about, how do we want to design a customer discovery CRM? If we can do it ourselves, so how do we want to design it? I think I cheated a little bit. I thought about it ahead of time over here, and I kind of captured it in this little text box. So first thing I'm thinking about is, we want to capture our segments. Like, who are the customer segments that we think, or what are the customer segments that we think currently exist? So to do that, we're editing this in real time together. So I'm going to turn this table into my segments table. And this is where I'm going to keep track of the segments that I think really matter for this, retina monitoring technology that I'm trying to turn into a startup here. So I have a few segments in mind. One is, I'll just show you, I typed these up before, middle-aged people over 45 with strong family risks for retinal detachment. That seems like a good segment to go after. And another is just eye doctors. So these are kind of two segments that I care about. So we'll keep it to two for simplicity right now. Then, the next thing I might think about is, well, I have hypotheses for these segments, essentially value props. Like, what are the value props that I think are really going to matter for middle-aged people, over 45 with a strong family risk for retinal detachment? And this is where the database and database functionality is kind of helpful, because keeping track of segments here. But what we can do is create what we call a linked record, and link this and create a new table that's going to be linked to all of our hypotheses. So I'll just create this right now, and you can see what this looks like. So this new, let's make this a little bit smaller now. So this new field was created. And I mean, maybe a hypothesis here is, I typed up another one so you can see it. So we're going to add it here, and I'll make this bigger so everybody can see. Okay, so my hypothesis, and this is kind of the value prop, right, is if at-home monitoring can cut regular monitoring visits by 30% and predict attachment risks with better accuracy, then they'll be happy to pay out of pocket. And that value prop is specific to middle-aged people. And so now I can link those together, and you can see that's linked back over here too. So now we kind of have segments and hypotheses linked together. We're starting to build a little system here. And I have one other hypothesis, one that I want to keep track of, just to make this feel real. So this one will support, regular eye doctors will support new at-home monitoring, even if it's only 15% more accurate. Okay, so here we have, this is the bare bones, right? We're keeping it really simple to start. We've tracked some of our segments that we care about, and then the hypotheses per segment. So we're kind of matching those together. So this is a great place to kind of keep track of this foundational information, but this isn't really much of a CRM yet, right? We haven't done any of the customer relationship stuff that we need to do. So let's try that out. So again, we can create a new table to do this. So I'm going to create a new table here, and you can see kind of in my cheat sheet, customers are next, right? So let's think about, let's keep track of customers in this table, but also think about, what do we care about tracking per customer? At the customer level, at that hierarchy, what do we care about? So certainly name is great, and we can kind of keep track of them this way, just using some fakey data. And we might also want to track things like email address, right? So we can just type in some, fake emails and so on. We might want to keep track of phone number, right? So this starts to feel like a, this starts to feel like a CRM that you might be experienced with, or a spreadsheet that you've built before. And you also want to keep track of things like, the company name, right? And probably the title of the person. And maybe you want to keep track of things like, I would use like a drop down to track seniority. So is this person, and then you can see how this works, right? We want to create a drop down quickly here. So this might be a manager, or a VP, or a president, C-level, something like that. And as you can see, we can just do it here. These are all options that we can choose from now. So it's just like a really easy way to kind of create what you would imagine exists in a CRM. And then the last thing we might want to do is, so this is kind of a pre-filled one. I'll get rid of this. So now the goal here is not just to keep track of a list of customers, right? It's to interview these customers, and it's to interview them about these hypotheses. So we might want to track like a status, which is, like haven't reached out, emailed to schedule interview, interview scheduled, interview completed, let's say. This is your mini funnel, for these customers. And then you can kind of create, add these statuses for each. And then the very last thing is, the reason we're talking to these customers is because they are from our core segments that we care about, right? Which we already set up at the beginning. So then we can do this kind of the same thing we did before, which is link these customers back to the segments table, and it kind of assign them to segments. So maybe customer 1 is, a middle-aged person, customer 2 is an eye doctor, customer 3 is an eye doctor, sure. And just to kind of close the loop for you guys, look back here and you can see these are linked, right? So these are kind of two-way links. Now we have 2 more things to quickly build together, and then we're going to look at kind of the full-on, fully baked version. First is, as I kind of said before, we want to actually interview these folks, right? Like that's kind of the goal here. And I think kind of critical to this is, it's not that just that we want to track the interviews, we also want to pull out the insights. So that's what we're going to do next. First thing is, we're going to create a new table. And this is going to be our interview tracker. So when I think about an interview tracker, what are the key things that I want to track? Well, just kind of cleaning this up. First thing is date. When did the interview actually happen? Next thing is the customer. So we can just link this to the customer, right? And now I can say, it happened on this date, and that was with this customer. And you can kind of fill this all out. Let's just do it so we have some data in here. And oops, we'll get rid of this one and make it customer 1. And then think like, what are the other things that you would want to track in an interview tracker? You'd probably want to track like the Zoom recording, let's say, right? We're all on Zoom all day now. So you throw in the URL to the Zoom recording. I know some folks who use something like rev.com or other tools like that to do transcriptions. So maybe you create a transcription, and you can actually use a tool like Zapier to zap the transcription into your Airtable interview tracker. So you can throw the transcription into here. And then, you might also, what you really want to do is start pulling out insights, right? Like, what are kind of the core insights from this particular interview? So we're going to call, let's do it this way. So we'll create, this is going to be our final table, and then we'll kind of show you the full on. So we're going to call this pains and gains. These are really like, insights, right? And in this case, we have insights that we pull out from each interview in particular. So we're going to be very simple here, insight 1, insight 2, insight 3, right? And these are related to specific interviews. We always, when I look at this insight, I want to be able to really easily figure out like, who said this, where does this insight come from? So the way we do that is the same linking that we were doing before, right? Link it back to the interview. And now we know we can say, which interview did this come from? You know, this came from this interview, and so on. And then you might want to do things like, you know, is this related to a specific hypothesis that you have, right? Because this insight is useful in so much as it pushes you towards validating or invalidating a specific hypothesis. So you can do the same thing where you link these insights to specific hypotheses, right? And we can just kind of do that quickly. And then you might want to do something like keep track, like, you know, does this support the hypothesis or does it not? You know, so maybe we create a drop down here where we say support, does not support. And we can use that to, like, as we're pulling out these insights, you can start thinking to yourself, you know, does this support the hypothesis or not? And then the last thing is we might want to track how urgent this problem is. You know, there's an insight that we're pulling out here. It's some type of problem statement. So maybe we can track something like urgency. You know, is this an urgent pain, right? Medium pain, right? Urgent gain, or medium gain. And then you can go through and assign these pretty easily. So we built the simplest customer discovery CRM that you could imagine, right? And I hope what you're taking away from this so far is how easy it is to just click a few buttons, type a few things, and you start building out a system that reflects how you want to do your customer discovery and how you want to do, you know, your work. But let me show you this fully baked one now, so you can kind of see what it might look like if you put in, you know, another 30 minutes and had been using this for a few weeks, had interviewed a lot more people, you know, where this could go. So as you can see, I stole some of these segments, you know, from this fully baked version. But you can see here we're tracking our segments. These are linked to each segment. The customers are from those segments. Then we also have value props related to those, which this is all pretty, it's what we saw before. But I wanted to pull out a few things that we've done that have really kind of souped this up and turned this into a system that's doing a lot more work for you. So one is we have these hypotheses here, right? And a hypothesis in this case is really just a segment plus a value proposition. But I know one thing that's really important is to ensure that your value prop is, you know, as specific as possible and as quantifiable as possible. And I know from talking with Beth, that's often a point of collaboration where you want to work together on making sure things are as quantifiable as possible. So one thing I wanted to note here is the ability to actually have conversations within Airtable. So I'm just pressing the space bar here to kind of expand the record. Now you can see this, we're just looking at, you know, all of the fields within this record. But what you can also do is you have this comment functionality here. So I can actually, you know, message, well, just, I guess, myself in this case and say, like, you know, let's look at this. You know, this could be more quantifiable, I think. Something like that. Send off this message. Now you would get, you know, I, in this case, will get this notification via my email, right? We can end up having this conversation, you know, in the context of the hypothesis generation and narrowing process, right? Which is pretty nice. And we also do things like we're looking at, for this hypothesis, how many insights are related to this hypothesis and what % of them are supportive. And if this is a low %, that might make you think, hey, you know, I don't think this is valid, right? And what's nice, by the way, is like these numbers are all updated in real time because we've created the system, and you'll be able to dig in when you play around with the template. But we created the system just to be all connected. So whenever you add a new interview finding and note whether it's supportive or not, these numbers will update themselves. And let's see. And yeah, the other thing I'll note is just how many more fields are in this kind of fully baked CRM, right? We're tracking things like, what's the TAM and SAM for these hypotheses, and we're also doing things like listing out the interviews that are related to these hypotheses. This is all really simple. Again, just like these are just additional fields that we've added, but it's adding a depth to the system that you're building. And it's something that you can do as easily as adding a new field. So maybe SAM and TAM isn't the most valuable thing for you. Maybe there's something else that you really want to keep track of. Airtable's not getting in the way. You can do it however you like. Want to give a quick tour of a few other things before I can stop for questions too. One is this customers table. You can see we built it out a lot more, right? We're tracking what type of customer is this, and you can kind of see what this dropdown looks like. So then you can start narrowing in on specific customer types. You can see a lot of this stuff looks the same, but we're also tracking things like when's the last time we actually talked to them, things like that, which are pretty easy to do. Then in this interview tracker, this looks very similar. This is date, who's the customer, and then we actually just pulled in what segment they're from, so we know as we're doing the interview, wait, what kind of customer is this? And then the last thing is these findings. And again, this looks pretty similar. Pulling out findings related to each interview, related to a specific hypothesis. Does this support the hypothesis or not? And the last thing I wanted to point out, because we didn't have a chance to dig into it, is we've been spending a lot of time looking at Airtable as this grid, as the spreadsheet view, right? And we all feel comfortable here. Everybody loves a good spreadsheet, but you can look at the underlying data in lots of different ways. So want to make sure that's clear, right? We're looking at all the underlying data in this table, but let's say I wanted to look at my interview schedule on a calendar. Right, easy to do. The underlying data is the same. I'll just pivot it on the date of the interview, and now I can see it on a calendar. So you can do that kind of across the board. All of these different tables, you'll be able to come up with different ways to view the data exactly how is useful to you. You might want to do something like, I only want to look at the interviews that have been completed, or I want to view all of my interviews by status. So you can kind of see the data in different ways depending on how you like to look at things. And there's two other things that I wanted to show off. We talked a little bit about kind of like the stats that you're able to pull together really quickly here, right? Like, are these findings supportive or not? You can also build like dashboards, which I find are really helpful if you're sharing out kind of the results of your customer discovery to stakeholders, and you don't necessarily want to get into the nitty-gritty details of every single interview you had, but you want to get some high-level stats on what's been going on. You can really easily do that if you go over here to this apps button. So I just created a few visualizations here. I'm going to open this up to a dashboard. And these are dead simple, right? These are just representative, but here I'm tracking, how many interviews are we as a team completing per day? How many interviews have we completed overall? And then, looking at all of the interview findings, how many of them are urgent pains, right? How many of them are no pain at all? Like things like that. You could come up with lots of different things to pull out and visualize, which I think is great just for kind of sharing up, or sharing out to people outside of the core team. And then the last thing I'll say is we also have automations built into Airtable. So you can do things like, I know something that's really top of mind when you're having these conversations is, I want to remember to stay in touch, especially with the people who are going to be my future customers. The people who have urgent pain that I can solve, for example, or an urgent gain that I can solve. So what you can do is create automations to like automatically send a thank you note after you complete an interview or something like that. And here's like an example of how this works. You can say, hey, whenever a record matches a specific condition, in this case, what I did was say, I'm going to create a field that just is a send thank you note field. So whenever I click this button, this automation is going to go off because a record will meet the condition that that field is clicked. Whenever that happens, I want to send an email to the person that the interviewee that we just chatted with has a kind of like a merged email that I send off that says, thanks for chatting, like, hi, first name, thanks so much, we'll be in touch soon. This is a dead simple automation, but it's just an example of how, once you have this all set up, you can start to turn it into a system that does all of that, does all of that marginal work for you. So you don't have to remember to do it. And of course, you'll have every single piece of customer detail captured in here anyway. So whenever you want to reach out to any of them, you kind of have it tracked. So that's my high level overview. Happy to take questions. I haven't been paying too much attention to the chat because it's hard on my screen, but happy to take any questions now, or if I need to just be quiet because we're running short on time, that's cool too.
Okay, David, I think we have a few questions, but I think we'll just get Ken started so that Ken can do the presentation for Salesforce.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Thank you,
Thanks,
David.
All right. Just stop sharing yours, David. I should be able to take it from there. There we go. And thank you for referring to 45 as middle age. Around this house, my kids just tell me that I'm old. So I did appreciate that piece of it. Right. So what I'm going to do is take you, again, like Ken Smith here at Salesforce, take you through a little bit of an overview of how Salesforce can be used at that front stage of your get, keep, grow funnel, if you will. The front stage of the funnel when it comes to trying to get new customers can be used throughout that. And we'll go over a few minutes first of just what Salesforce as who we are and where people use this stuff. And then we'll go ahead and get started. So first is an obligation. Salesforce is a publicly traded company. So every time we do a presentation, this forward-looking statement comes up. It just says that should you choose to do business with Salesforce, you do so based on what's currently available. I hope that each of you and your projects get to be able to do this someday, because that means you've been doing really well. Second, thank you. I know that your time is valuable and there are no shortage of options for webinars and recordings and things. So I appreciate you being able to spend time with eLab and all of us here today and learning a bit more about what we do. So here at Salesforce.com, kind of use this a lot, but I think it's key. And I've been here 2 years and used the technology for about 15 before that, and it shows through. So when the company was started 20 years ago, it was really founded on these 4 principles of trust, customer success, innovation, and equality. And the trust piece of it, kind of more important now than ever, is more than just being able to rely on, what you hear as being truthful, but it's also your systems, right? Everything Salesforce does is in the cloud. You need to be able to rely on that being available. You need to be able to rely on that being protected. And you can, at any point in time, go to trust.salesforce.com to see the status of all of the systems that are powered by Salesforce. You can see certifications. Any of that information is available to anyone. It's not protected by any firewall. You can go see that at any point in time. The next piece, customer success. So our business is built on our clients being successful. It's a subscription-based technology. So every year you're trying to help people be successful so that they can see that they're seeing the value in their investments that helps make them a successful company, no matter what they're doing. The innovation piece is important too, as we'll go through here in a second, is we're always pushing out new things and trying to do new things to help our customers improve what they're working on. For me, in the higher ed space, in the nonprofit, as part of our .org group, we have sprints, community sprints, where a lot of our stuff is community driven, open source pieces of things. So there's always events going on to help drive innovation, and we're pushing out 3 new releases a year. That's a lot of change, and it's a lot to keep up with, but it also helps you kind of really feel like you're on top of things. The last piece, the equality piece, is not just for how we hire and treat our own colleagues and partners, but even when it comes to things like product development. You think, well, how does that play in? Usually things like accessibility. So we want to make sure that the technology we create can be used by anyone. right? So the accessibility teams that are part of Salesforce are part of the development process from the beginning. The other part is our Office of Ethical and Humane Use. So we want to make sure the technology we're going to create is going to be used for ethical and humane things. So that's another piece of it that's baked into how we develop things. The other piece that that is important and is core to how Salesforce started is the belief that business is the perfect platform for change. When the company was started, Mark Benioff created the 1-1-1 model, where 1% of the time, 1% of equity, and 1% of product gets donated back to the community. Our group at Salesforce.org really manages all of this in terms of the volunteer hours for the company, the work with our nonprofits and education, and the grants that we do, most of it around workforce development and future ready projects. But we also help take the technology and make it available and useful in those higher ed and nonprofit environments. It's a key part of what we do as a company. It's used in a lot of places. Salesforce technology is really meant to be used in a lot of different applications, and we'll kind of get into that in a minute. This one I brought up, I think this is important for you all too, is Salesforce is as a company, right, it's been around a little while and pretty large and popular technology. This is a report from a research firm IDC, and what they say by 2025, there's going to be 4.2 million jobs in the Salesforce economy. And what that means is not just Salesforce employees, but partners and clients in the community at large are going to be using the technology to help their businesses and their institutions do things. And why I thought that was important is you'll need skills in this area to hire. You'll be able to hire the people who have the skills that help you grow your businesses. And how do we support that? Or how do we help kind of get these people up to speed? We have something called Trailhead, which we'll share some links and go through in a minute, which is a free learning environment where anyone can go in and start learning Salesforce. And that's part of the way that we help get people exposed to it and help them further their careers in what they're trying to do. And for our own customers, they can skill up in new areas as they're trying to learn them. So what we try to do either in a higher education environment or in a commercial environment is help give our customers a complete or 360-degree view of their customers, so that when you're working with someone, no matter if it's in a sales environment, it's in a help or support environment, or in a community type of environment, all of these different aspects can be put into one place and give you that complete view of something. So if you ever think of the time where you're working with your internet service provider or phone company or cable company, and you call up because of an issue and then you get transferred and you have to repeat that whole thing again, or you go to Home Depot and it's not my that's not my department, and if someone sends you somewhere else, it's frustrating. You have to go repeating that again. One of the goals here is that by having this 360-degree view of your constituents or your customers, you don't need to do that. Everything's in one place. So if you're a salesperson who's going to be calling on a customer to try to sell them something new, and you see that they have 4 support cases open, maybe now's not the right time to do that, right? So this is the idea: is there are different technologies that can be useful to different people at different times of your growth that can all connect together on one platform and give you the ability to go ahead and get that view of your customers. So if we apply that to the funnel that I know many of you have been working through here in this Get, Keep, Grow environment, is we're going to focus today in a couple minutes on the get portion of things. So how do you get someone to have interest in what you do, and then see that through as a lead into them making a purchase and becoming a customer? Then how do you keep that customer? Then how do you grow that? So if you look at that 360-degree view of a customer piece, first thing we're going to do is try to bring them in, get them to work with us and be interested in us and become a customer. Once they do, how do you keep a customer? Well, you provide good support, you provide good services, you provide good information. That piece of the 360-degree view, maybe in that help desk or in that community way of things. The next piece is, all right, well, now we want to grow. We have some customers. What do we want to do next? Well, with the information that you get from this view, you can see what are common issues that our customers might be having that could present upgrade potentials or new services or things that need to be fixed. So the idea is by having all the data in one place, you're able to make this, not only bring customers in quicker, you're able to keep them, but you're also to help identify new potential areas of business for your company. So that's where I think a lot of the power of the Salesforce platform comes in, is really helping in each of these stages. And as you grow, you know, when you don't have any customers, you need to get them. And once you get them, then we need to keep them. You can kind of build out on a single platform without having to integrate a bunch of different things along the way. So what we'll do here today is we're going to focus here on the get customer side of it. So instead of me talking through it, what I'm going to do is bring in a demonstration here from one of our Salesforce.com's master solution engineer, Iman Maguri. So there are links that follow this that we'll go ahead and share. But what we're going to look at here with Iman is he's going to take us through, say, the day in a life of a person using Salesforce in a sales role. We're going to go into a dashboard that might be the starting place, and then we're going to look at that lead flow. So from getting a customer, from getting that initial bit of information, how the lead comes in, pushing it through to converting it to something, an account and an opportunity. So this will take a few minutes. We'll go through it here, and again, we'll share this out here in a minute.
What you're going to see. You're going to see as a rep, your homepage. The homepage is there to tell you what you need to focus on, what you need to do.
And it looks like the
Hello. The homepage is there to tell you what you need to focus on, what you need to do, help you kind of prioritize your day. You can completely customize and configure this. I've done that on this page, but you could do that too, all right? So when I log in, where are my deals? What stages are they in? How many tasks do I have to do? What's on my calendar? What are my to-do items? Of my customers, how many support tickets do I have open and what status are they in, right? This Elementis Corporation, they have an escalated support ticket. Maybe I dive in there and see what's going on, okay? I've got my recent items, and I've got Einstein giving me insights. So Einstein is basically a name we just apply to any feature that uses artificial intelligence or machine learning, kind of a smart feature, if you will. And here, it's looking at all of my opportunities and telling me which ones I should focus on, which deals look like they're getting bigger, or what deals are maybe blocked, and what it recommends to move forward, okay? All right, so this is me, this is my day, but let's start where all sales cycles start, and that's with leads, lead management. Well, you can get leads into Salesforce just by uploading a spreadsheet or creating them manually yourself. I can come in here and go, Crystal wants to buy stuff, Crystal Beer, right? And I can put her info in here, or you can have your own web to lead form. And here's an example I have. Here's my web to lead form, okay? Sidebar here for all of you if you want to play along. Here's my link to the web to lead form. You all just got it in the chat bar, and you're welcome to go here and fill it out and see kind of what would happen if you do it. But I'm going to go in here and say Tony Tiger at Tiger Corp. He's the CEO, and it's Iman at Salesforce.com, and we'll put in some phone number.
I'm going to pause here for a minute. Now, this is a part Beth and I spoke about before, is how do we capture that lead initially? Whether it comes from an event, a webinar, you can have a form that pops up on your website. So more information, I want an RFI or request for information. This can be placed anywhere. Once you place that, you catch the information, then you can bring it in.
Number here, doesn't matter, and hit go. That web to lead form could have been on your website. They're going to get redirected to a thank you page. They're going to get an automated thank you email, and that lead is automatically going to get routed to the right person. So if I go to, let's say, my leads, I'll now see that, what did I name this guy? Tony? What did I name him? Tony Tiger. Tony Tiger is now one of my leads. All right, so it got assigned right to me, and I could start, prioritizing my leads, let's say by lead score. And I would probably want to start on my highest scoring leads and work my way down. But in this case, let's find Tony. And let's go straight to Tony's record. All right. And let me see here if anyone else played along. So let's go to today's
Fast
leads.
forward a bit.
A lead record. This is a prospect. This is someone you don't know, you haven't worked with, you haven't really talked to them yet. Maybe they came in from a trade show or your website. So what are we going to do? First things first is let's just look at the lead before we call this person. Who are they? What's their title? What do we know about them? What have they filled out? And right now we got a lot of nothing, right? We could even check our marketing engagement history. What websites did they go to? What emails did they open? What links did they click? So if, for example, Tony had already been here and I called Tony and now's not a good time, I could put Tony into a nurture campaign. This is a product called Pardot. This is our marketing automation product. It's an add-on. But what I could do is go, oh, now's not a good time. All right, well, let me put you into a nurture campaign, right? And I can pick a campaign that makes sense. And now marketing is going to be targeting this person with the right messages at the right interval. And based on this person's engagement level, they're going to get a score and they're going to get a grade. They're going to show us how engaged they are, and we're going to learn more about them. We're going to see, for example, that he's got 500 employees and what industry they're in, and maybe we get the.
How's that here? I know we're running a bit on time, but the idea is the ability. So a lot of these, you see different fields in here, right? Titles, things. Some of that stuff are common. You want to know this about your leads. Others are going to be specific to what you do. So you can go ahead and change any of that. You can add your own, you can pull other things out. And then anything that's in the Salesforce environment, you can then report on. So we saw that homepage when we started with the different dashboard pieces in it. And any of that can be pieces of things that, the data that's most important to you can then be reported on, so you can see what's, what you're interested in tracking. As this goes through, what this lead will convert over into an opportunity. When you convert the lead, basically you're saying that this person has shown interest and they want to proceed. Now we're going to create an account, which is kind of their company. It's going to have a contact for Tony in there. And then there might be an opportunity, which is your chance to your chance to sell something, your chance to do what your opportunity can be anything. It could be a sale, it could be a partnership, it could be a speaking engagement. It's really a generic object that you could define any way that you want. And then you track that opportunity through your stages. So each business has a little different selling approach. There might be different guideposts that you need to get through. So you can go ahead and configure that opportunity process to match whatever it is that you're trying to do in your particular use case. So this is about a 30-minute thing, just a few minutes here in that front page, that front piece in that sales cycle. Really, the next piece here, I think, is I've included that link, and there are some great places to get started. So let me go ahead and copy these into an environment here into the chat window. But when it comes to, so you can see that full webinar from Iman and some of his others. But when it comes to getting to know and learn Salesforce, Trailhead is the place that you start, that we have all of our clients start, that we start as Salesforce folks. Trailhead is a free gamified learning environment, and it's made up of learning things all based on Salesforce technology. There are some more life skill type of things as well in there. And it's broken up into little modules, trails, which are multiple modules, trail mixes, which is a combination of things. And as you complete them, you get badges. Those badges can go on your LinkedIn profile, but basically they help you learn different components to it. So in here, I have a couple of great starting places. One is just basics about Salesforce. Next is the Sales Cloud, which is the piece that drove the lead conversion that we were just looking at. And then also a link to the Sales Cloud, which is, again, that technology we're just looking at, where you can get a trial of Salesforce. So anyone can go to this page, you can fill out the information for a trial. On the Salesforce side, we work in different industries or verticals, right? I work in higher ed and nonprofit. So, the things, once you fill that out, you'll get the information to start your trial, and you'll get connected with the folks that are most relevant to what you work on. There's health and life sciences, there's financial services, there's high tech. So this is a great place to go if you want to try it out and start down the path, and then start to get connected with people from Salesforce who have that industry expertise that you're looking for. So I'll go ahead and pause here for a minute and put these links into the chat. Let me grab that.
Thank you so much to both David and Ken for the presentation. I just want to answer a few questions that participants have been asking. Is there a recorded session? Yes, the recording will be shared after this presentation. Also, both David and Ken have credits for the Cornell entrepreneurship community. And I think Hope has the information about that, and she will probably be sending out an email soon after the presentation to share the credits. And then this is just the beginning. We're going to host more of these if there is interest from the audience. So if you are interested in seeing other kinds of software providers for other parts of the startup experience, please let me know. I am taking in the input from the community here, and we will host more webinars that's relevant to your startup needs. Okay, so I think that wraps up the presentation for today. I will leave it to Hope to answer any other questions. And thank you again to David Peterson and Ken Smith for presenting today.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Ken, and thanks, David. So unless there are any other questions, I'm just gonna skim the Q&A as they're coming in. It looks like there was just one last question about whether EMBA students would get credits too. And I believe we'll follow up with more information on this, but I believe there is going to be something set up open to the general Cornell community. So we'll be able to follow up with more information on that. And lastly, before we wrap, we just want to take a minute to remind everyone of some upcoming events that we have coming up here that may be of interest to this audience. So we have one on venture capital coming up on the 16th at 4 p.m. One on being a Black entrepreneur hosted by BET, a Black Entrepreneur and Training Program. This will be on eCornell as part of their keynote series at 11 a.m. These are all Eastern Standard Time, by the way. And then on Wednesday, December 2nd, will be early stage pitches from the current eLab cohort. So we hope you're able to join us for some of those as well. In just a moment, I will drop some of the links for these directly in the chat as well, in case you want to click on those and jump over to them. And other than that, we thank you all for joining.